thrilled to have here on the show. Really enjoyed his work with Brian Greasy and Steve Levy in the booth for Monday Night Football. And he talks ball all the time for the worldwide leader in sports. Louis Riddick here on the show. How are you, Louis?
Rich, I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No, thank you for coming on this program right now. Let's just jump right into it with what's going on with Deshaun Watson. I mean, you know how front offices approach matters, and that it's always like, let's stick with Plan A until Plan B, somebody walks through the door with an offer that we can't refuse. But it does not even seem like it looks like the Texans are even refusing to acknowledge there's a door B right now. What do you think is going on with this, Louis?
Yeah, I think really when you think about this, I think Nick Caserio's, he's looking at this going, look, this is my first time being a GM. I have the final say. So I really want to be known as the guy who at the first crack of being a GM, after knocking on the door so many different times and for different reasons not being able to, actually finish the deal, do I want to be known as the guy who traded Deshaun Watson? That's the first thing that he did. He traded one of the most dynamic quarterbacks that, quite honestly, when you look at him play for play, stat for stat, he's right up there with some of the greats that are playing this game right now, namely the guy who everybody considers to be the standard, Patrick Mahomes. Do you want to be known as that guy? And I think, but once you get past that, when you look at the long game, Rich, I think, and I've said this numerous different times, if it got to a point where I could get to a face-to-face with Deshaun, and he was telling me this, and I really did, for all intents and purposes, believe him when he said, I'm not playing for you because this isn't even about you. This isn't my problem isn't with you. Mm-hmm. My problem goes way above you. Then I would really start saying, hey, look, it's time for us to start picking up the phone because I need to build this football team. I need to do what's in the best interest of this team, both now and in the future. We need the picks. We need the capital. And there's some people out there right now that are just flat out desperate for this guy. And we might be able to take them straight to the cleaners. You have to start considering that. And I think right now, honest to God, if I was in that chair, I would be considering it. I really would.
I mean, you have to, right? I mean, because it does appear it does appear that he's communicated everything that you say you would need to hear sitting in that chair. And I was mentioning before on the show, and you may have heard, certainly through our friend Greeny as well. I suffer from the same affliction as Greeny with the Jets, and this has nothing to do with that. If you're in that position where you've got a player saying this to your face, wouldn't you want not one but two teams that have top 3 draft choices and multiple first rounders that they would be potentially willing to give, but because they have them, and also 23-year-old quarterbacks that can also be flipped to you in the trade, and even better, to play them off each other. They're division rivals. Sure. I mean, this is the mother load that you'd want to have created. Now, the only issue that you would maybe make it wish for you to be better is that it would be in another conference, so you don't have to see this kid once every 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems to be perfect.
There's a couple scenarios that are like that. I mean, really, even though Carolina's not in the division.
Yes, correct.
There's still another one where, okay, would you be willing to survive? Do you think you could survive short term with a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, plus all the draft capital that you could get, plus whatever other player that they'd be willing to give you off of that roster, considering that right now they're basically telling you, just look at what we have and tell us what you want. I mean, that's really what teams are doing right now in terms of they're making an attempt to see if this is really something that they can consummate. And I think this too, Rich, the longer this goes, and I've had a couple of people tell me this, we can't, meaning from the team side, from the potential acquiring team side, we can't wait forever. We can't deal in hypotheticals and wishing that and hoping that eventually either he or Russell comes available. The longer this goes, the more we have to go to our plan B, C, and D, especially in the quarterback situation. And that's just and at some point in time we have to close off the door to this. We can't revisit it. We can't go into the draft. Let's just say this drags all the way up to the draft, or even past the draft. They draft the quarterback, and then all of a sudden Houston goes, hey, you know what? yeah, we are going to trade him. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to trade for Deshaun Watson if you just drafted a quarterback in the first round or just gave someone a contract that locks you into some things from a salary cap planning perspective and then just blow it all up because then they decide. So I think it's also important for Houston to time this up right, too. Because they could clean. I'm just telling you, they could, and you know this. I mean, this isn't hard to figure out. You could clean up in this situation.
Clean up.
And for Nick, look, if he's having these conversations with Cal McNair right now, look, Nick, if I'm Nick, I'm sitting back in my chair going, I didn't create this.
Yeah.
I didn't
really? You say that to the new boss, Louis?
You know what? You know what? I'm saying. You know what? I guess I'm saying that to myself.
Right.
I'm saying, hey, look, I'm saying at one point, look, yeah, I'm sure, we're in this together, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, look, I'm trying to build this football team. I'd love to build this football team with about 4 extra first and seconds, plus a quarterback who I think I can win with, and some nice cap space going forward. I'd like that situation. I wouldn't want to take the short-term hit of being the guy that traded Deshaun Watson, but in my mind, what would give me some, well, besides the fact that I signed, I don't know, what did Nick sign, a 5-6-year deal? I mean, along with that security, I'd be thinking, I'm trying to build this going forward. So either way, I think I'm good. And I just think that they have to start looking along those lines and thinking along those lines. And I really would. And I'm not just saying it because I'm not in that chair. I'm saying it because I really do believe if I felt that Deshaun was dug in like he is, and he's given nobody any reason to think otherwise, I think timing is everything in this. And I think it's on their side right now. But with every passing day, I think that could start changing.
I agree, Louis. Louis Riddick here on the Rich Eisen Show. Because, look, being on this side of the business right now with a microphone attached to your lapel or wearing a headset, you know that with each passing day that the Texans don't make this maneuver, there's at least, I could probably name 10 people in your shop alone that would love to have that one-on-one with Deshaun Watson. There's me. There's 10 people in my shop. There's 10 people in Fox's shop. I mean, honestly, all he's got to do is choose one, and then suddenly the leverage goes out the window that they have when he says the words publicly into a microphone, sitting in a one-on-one chair, or tweets it out if he wants to make his own content his own, because that's the way things go. Changes the dynamic in 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Because right now you've got in Carolina an owner in David Tepper who wants to make the biggest splash possible, and you got two teams potentially in the AFC East worried that the other one might actually pull off the deal. And you got this all played out, and it's wired. And nobody has fallen head over heels in love yet with somebody for a second or third overall pick in New York or Miami yet, but that may happen. This is it. Now's the time.
Yeah, and you know what? And let's just throw another team in there.
Sure.
Although they can't offer the quarterback in return that a Carolina can, or the Jets can, or Miami can. And I keep saying this, and I know that the people, who work there, I mean, some of them are good friends of mine, they're probably sitting there going, Louis, why are you doing this to us? But they know it too. In Chicago, they are in a tough spot, okay? If they don't swing, and I mean like Barry Bonds knock it out of the park, swing and hit at quarterback, they are in a tough spot. Because then they're sitting there at the 20 spot in the first round, and they got to get up ahead of teams that potentially want to draft a quarterback like the Patriots, maybe the 49ers, the Broncos, Carolina's sitting there hungry for a quarterback, maybe the Eagles, Falcons, Dolphins, Jets, Jaguars. What are they going to do then? They said yesterday, well, you know what? We haven't closed the door on bringing back Mitch Trubisky. Yeah, right. You're not going down that road. You have Nick Foles under contract. That's not going to work. What are you going to trade for Marcus Mariota? No, that's not going to work. You're going to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick? No. You're going to sign Jameis? No. You're going to sign Alex Smith? Especially not when both the GM and the head coach's jobs are on the line here in 2021. That's another team that when you're sitting, I bet if they picked up the phone in Houston, they would say, what do you want? Just tell us. Who do you want? You want Khalil Mack? You want Roquan Smith? You want our next three first-round picks? What do you want? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's really one of those. I don't know. Let's just say this drags out into the season. Let's say Deshaun decides, hey, I'll miss a game then. I'll miss a couple games. I'm not going to blink. Where does that leave Houston? What have you shown? What have you proven by saying, I don't want to establish the precedent of having quarterbacks being able to walk into our office and say, I don't want to play for you, and then all of a sudden we're just kind of caving to that pressure. I don't want to establish that precedent. I don't want other players coming in doing that. You're not proving anything here. I mean, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face here in this situation.
Doubt.
That's exactly what you're doing.
No doubt. I mean, you are spitting truth here, Louis. I mean, and honestly, the one thing we haven't mentioned throughout this entire conversation, because we could sit here and say, absolutely Jets, absolutely Carolina, absolutely Miami, absolutely Chicago. You could throw, San Francisco into the mix potentially, or anybody wants to swing for a fence, as you said, Barry Bonds stuff. Right? You could do all that. Yep. Deshaun's got a no-trade clause on top of it. He could shut it down at any moment. So you've got to be on the same page with somebody who wants to not even be in your book anymore. It's insane. And each passing day to try and get it done with a draft approaching, if it's the week of. Imagine pulling something like this off on a draft night. I mean, that would be insanity. That would be insane to do that.
It would be good for us. That's for sure. It'd be good for you, good for us, it'd be good for everybody. And you know what? I'll tell you secretly, I'm hoping something like that does happen. But you're right. I mean, it's just and you just touched on something though, right? They have to still, ironically, communicate with a guy who could just blow up all their friends. They could do all this legwork, pick up the phone, hash out all these deals, just go fantasy football hog wild on this whole thing and get everything lined up, and Deshaun can say, nope.
That's right.
Don't like that place. And you know what that comes down to again? The same thing that got them into this mess. Communication. That's all this came down to. I mean, see, people now think that this is just the era of the prima donna quarterback, and all of a sudden guys are more selfish now and want to just do their own thing. I mean, quarterbacks, Rich, you know that they've been doing this for a long time. Quarterbacks have been trying to dictate their own destiny for a long time, since way back. But we just kind of selectively get ticked off about certain things because of the optics and how it looks. And it's almost like here, now people are saying, well, Deshaun and Russell, they want to be GMs too. They want to pick coaches. And from my understanding, and I think I have a pretty good understanding, and I'm sure you do too, that's not what he wanted. He didn't start this. People came to him, asked him about his input about certain things. He thought that was going to continue going forward. He expressed some concerns about certain things. And then all of a sudden, when the rubber meets the road, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, things changed on him. I don't care what business you're in, and I don't care what era it is. You tell somebody something like that, and you back out on your word, you're going to get what's coming to you. And in this case, it's a kid who says, I'm done. Just get me out of here. Send me somewhere else. And that's simply because you didn't keep the main thing. You didn't keep your word. And that's got to account for something at some point, especially when you're talking about a quarterback who without him last year, you're lucky if you win those 4 games. You may win 1. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of wild. So sometimes, we make this stuff so difficult, and it's really not. I mean, it's in terms of communicating anyway. I mean, winning football games in the NFL is hard, but communicating with your best players and players who you have decided you want to invest the kind of money in them that you're investing, it's not that hard to stay true to them and stay open with them and stay honest with them and just let them know, because that's what players ultimately want. They just want you to stay true to what you're saying, or don't say anything. If you didn't want him to be involved, you didn't want his input, then you should have never asked him. But don't put it out there and then take it back and then expect there to be no consequences for it. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that just drives me up a wall, just about business and life in general. Don't put it out there and then pull it back and then expect somebody to just kind of just keep rolling because you're the boss and they're the employee. I mean, that's not the way it works anymore. It really doesn't, and I don't think it should work that way.
Louis Riddick here on the Rich Eisen Show. Last one for you, Louis, before I send you back into your ESPN day. There's so many different quarterback and so many different situations to talk about right now, and I'd love to have you back on as the new league year begins and we get closer to the draft. But T.J. Jefferson, say hello to Louis Riddick. Go ahead, say hello to Louis Riddick.
Louis Riddick, what up, man?
Okay, that's my social media. That's my social media grandmaster, who's a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan who doesn't want to hear about Dak Prescott until the deal is done. So let me ask you about Dak Prescott and what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys, Louis. What is going on there? Do you think?
Talk to me, Lou.
Look, this again. See, sometimes when I just said sometimes it's not as. It shouldn't be so hard.
That's right.
I don't understand why this is so hard. And I wish I knew everything about the negotiation here so you could really kind of pinpoint what has happened. But let's just say this. Knowing what we do know, we know this. When teams want to make deals, they make deals. When they wanted to get Patrick Mahomes signed in Kansas City, they got it done.
Yes.
Heck, when the Texans wanted to get Deshaun done, they got it done. It just got done. Why? What's the holdup? Who's the guy who's holding this deal up? Because we're not going to really argue about just how good Dak is and whether situationally he's a guy who can make people better, blah, blah, blah. We saw that earlier this year. Dak is a fantastic quarterback. I don't know what the holdup is. I don't know if it's Dak's representatives in terms of the length of the contract, if Jerry's uncomfortable paying him $39, touching on $40 million per year. I don't know. But we saw what happened when he wasn't on that football team.
Yes, we did.
We saw how it cratered. And right now, Dak's going to win regardless. Dak's going to win if they franchise him again. I mean, we'd all take $70 million over 2 years in cold, hard cash. That's what he gets. Don't sign him. That's fine, too. I hit the free agent market, and right now, Ed Werder's reporting that Dak is on track to be ready to go by this spring.
Yeah.
He's going to cash in. And if you franchise him and don't sign him to a long-term deal and somehow he winds up signing that tender, next year he hits the market, TV money is going to explode. Sorry, cap's going to go back up. He's going to win anyway. So Dallas better. I don't know what they're doing, but Dak's winning. That's all I know. Dak is winning.
He's getting paid like Kirk Cousins and Garrett Cole combined from two sports. They all guarantee it's unbelievable.
And here's the last thing I'll say, Rich. And I want to take up. This is the last thing I'll say about Dallas. This is what they got to be careful about.
Okay.
They're sending a message to their players and to. Look, owners are sending messages to players around the league when you do this kind of thing. Dak is a fourth-round pick who did everything right since he's been there. Every single thing right. On the field, off the field, elevated the people around him, everything you ask. And now all of a sudden, you can't get him signed to a long-term deal? There's speculation that because Russell said that Dallas is one of the places that he'd like to play, can you imagine if they traded for Russell Wilson? Didn't pay Dak and brought someone else in there? What do you think that the players in that locker room would say? And what do you think what do you think it would do to the morale of that football team as far as how they would look at, man, these guys don't care about what you do for this place. This is just a cold, hard business. And we know it's a business, but you know how that can affect how you acquire other players and players wanting to come there. Players like to be wanted and like to know that they're going to be treated right. What did JJ just do? Going to Arizona. What did he love about that besides the money? He loved how they treated him, how they courted him, how they made him feel like he was wanted. You better be careful when you start treating guys like that. Treating them like they're just commodities. Dallas better be careful.
Louis, great chat. Really enjoyed it. Look for my number, please. We'll keep calling. Thank you for taking this call.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
Right back at you. At L Riddick ESPN. I follow him. You should too. At Louis.Riddick on Instagram. From Monday Night Football. Wow, that was just great. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.